Welcome to Outdrive, folks. I'm your host, Cliff Callis, and each week I'm bringing you actionable marketing insights you can apply to reach, connect with, and convert rural American consumers. Outdrive is powered by Callis, a full-service advertising agency with a focus on marketing rural America. Callis offers a wide range of integrated marketing services, including website development, search engine marketing, social media, video, and digital. We develop strategic and creative campaigns to build your brand and your business, and you can learn more about us at ecallis.com. Now join me in the front seat as we head out on the road to success. Let's go. Hey folks, welcome to Outdrive. We've got another great story to share with you today about life and work in rural America. For most businesses, you have at least one strong competitor, and you may have many. So how do you stand out and be different? And how are you found? We think it starts with your story and telling it in a way that engages your audience and builds trust for your brand. But it's not just about your story. You also have to be found by potential customers, and that's hard when so many businesses are competing for search optimization. Certainly, though, there are best practices and tools you can use to improve your search performance, and that brings us to our guest today. Rachel Hernandez is the Director of Marketing for NextNet Media, the parent company of 7 different brands in the marketing space. Rachel started as a copywriter, and over the past few years has developed her expertise and her experience helping companies in the B2B space build their business. Stay tuned as we dive into the principles of SEO, content marketing, technology, and more. Welcome to Outdrive, Rachel.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Well, I've been excited to visit with you. I always like talking shop, and I feel like that's probably what we're going to spend the bulk of our time today doing. You know, you're a director of marketing, NextNet Media. I want to talk about branding. I want to talk about digital media strategies because there's so many and they change so fast. I want to talk about AI because that's infiltrated our industry. Certainly SEO and content marketing. I think we have a lot of different things to talk about. But let's start by having you just tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, my name is Rachel. I am the director of marketing at NextNet Media. NextNet Media is actually the parent company to about 7 different brands. Most of them are in the SEO space. So, the main ones with, I would say, like the most recognition would be the Hoth, which specializes in link building, technical SEO. We do optimized content, local SEO. And then we have Authority Builders and linkbuilder.io. So, all brands that do a lot when it comes to link building and link outreach, which if anybody's done SEO before or has had to knows that's possibly the most crucial part of an SEO campaign, but also the most annoying and difficult to pull off. So we've definitely carved ourselves a space in the niche where we're definitely needed by a lot of different people.
Well, how did you get it started in marketing? What attracted you to it?
So I was always a reader and a writer. And growing up, I had somewhat of a book addiction where I actually would get in trouble in class for like reading a book under my desk or reading during recess instead of playing with the other kids. And that translated into going to school to actually be a writer. And this was in 2003. So there wasn't really the digital marketing or media space that we have now. I thought that, you'd go in and you'd try to write. I was looking into creative nonfiction and fiction. I was taking journalism classes. I thought maybe I'd work at a publishing company. And then if I didn't get to do those things, maybe I'd end up being an English teacher. But then as time went on, and I was also, of course, waiting tables through that whole thing, digital marketing started to explode. And there was a space for people like me, creatives like me, to actually get to go out there. And I broke my teeth as a copywriter. And that's sort of how I broke in. So for me, it's been really great because I love stories. That's my first love. And good marketing is good storytelling, essentially. So I've been really lucky that I've found a career in a space where I get to kind of have fun with those early passions that I had. So
So what's your transition from copywriter to where you are today?
Yeah, so I had no experience in like the MarTech space or anything. I think I was 29 and I kind of was just like, okay, I need to figure out something else. Cause again, I was waiting tables and like, okay, this isn't gonna work. And I decided to move. I was in New York City at the time. And I also knew that area of the country was going to be really competitive for me to break into a space with no experience, no internships, no connections. My parents are both social workers. So I moved to Florida, to St. Petersburg, and I joined an email marketing company as a tech support agent, making minimum wage. And I just thought to myself, like, okay, maybe there's a place where you can work your way up. And that happened. So the spot opened up on the team and I applied and I got it on the writing team. And then I ended up managing that team. And then I got into SEO because the Hoth is also local to that area. And they were looking for somebody to start an optimized blog product. And I had a friend who was at the company at the time, and I knew it was a great place to work. And I threw my hat in the ring, and that was 8 years ago. So I've been there for 8 years and started off in content products, but now I've transitioned and I'm in marketing. So I essentially marketing. But yes, very. So it's always been really about content and content marketing for me, and kind of did have to scurry my way up, but I'm really happy I did.
But a very natural path too, I think.
Yeah.
So what do you love about what you do?
Oh my gosh, I feel so fortunate. I get to be creative. And I think a lot of the time we look at people who are in marketing, like they kind of, you do kind of lose some of the magic. Like it's not all Mad Men, it's not all funny tweets like your Wendy's or something like that, especially in the B2B space where I'm at. But there are still so many ways that you can integrate that storytelling and that connection. And for me, even a sense of humor and a sense of cheek is something that definitely differentiates our brand. I mean, I was just literally like, before I hopped on this call, there's a meme going around on LinkedIn where people are saying, like, they won't remember how much you made or your job title or how many hours you worked, but they will remember. And then it's usually something funny, like, the time that you like had a typo in your email subject line. So I got to spend 15 minutes like figuring out, okay, how do we make this funny about SEO? And that post is going to go live. So, there's a lot of fun. There's a lot of work and a lot of, data analysis and stuff, but there's still a lot of fun to be had with content marketing. And especially these days too, where everybody is just looking for that authenticity and looking for a break from everything else that's going on.
You're absolutely right. And there are grunt days, right? But it is a fun industry and it's always changing. And of course, technology is driving a lot of the change today. And there's tons of different media strategies that you can use, digital media strategies. But the bottom line, it's all about the people, and the people make it fun. And every person has a story to tell. In your opinion, how important is storytelling to a brand?
Oh, I think it's the most important thing. I don't think you have a brand without a story. It's the foundation. You could maybe have a business without a story, but I don't think you have a brand. A brand is really about character and personality. And that's what stories do is they create character.
So do you have an approach that you always use to help build a story? And what is it?
Yeah, I do. It's going to sound pretty cliched, but one of the things that I come up against if you're reporting to leadership or if you're an agency and you're working with clients is, as a brand or a business, everybody wants to talk about themselves and they're so mired in what they do and what they provide that, and they're like, oh, our brand story is, that we like have this really cool feature, or, that we did like this amazing thing, or that we've always been on the cutting edge of technology. And at the end of the day, it's not about that. The story is really about what you do for the people who work with you. So I always come into it with that perspective. For instance, for the Hoth, our story, because SEO can be kind of a daunting thing. And so many of our clients are small to medium businesses, and it's something that they like kind of know they need, but they don't really know how to do it and how important it is. And it seems super complicated. And there's all this jargon. And so our story is, and it is a little about us, but it's we make SEO simple. Like one of our taglines is we simplify SEO so you can watch your business grow. So a very simple connection about the value proposition, but really, what does that value proposition do for you, the end user? And I think that's something that gets missed a lot because it's really easy to just be amped about your own product or service and kind of not think about the person who's actually going to use it to find success.
I think that's a great perspective. I'm all aboard with you because you're right. Everybody wants to talk about themselves, but really it ought to be about them. And it's all about them. And to your point, what you can do for them. And we have a similar approach in our marketing for our agency in we help clients achieve business success. We lead them there. And again, that's focused on them because we know that if they grow, we're going to grow, right? But people want to hear about themselves. So you mentioned branding. Are there some fundamentals that you use for brand building? Things that are like best practices, you're always going to do this. What would they be?
I have a few. I would say you always have to have some sort of foundational go to market message that's a touchstone. So, again, like SEO simplified, we are able to, it's, obviously we don't have that exact phrase in every piece of marketing that we do, but the association that begins to form is so important. And I think too, when you think of any brand that's big, you think of a Nike, you think of a Just Do It, you think of a McDonald's, you think of a I'm Loving It or a Billions and Billions Served. You don't have to be a huge corporation to have a tagline that people associate with you. And I think that's very powerful. And I see a lot of businesses kind of miss that. And then beyond that, like I would say you have to have some foundational just documentation to keep things consistent. Consistency is so important when it comes to branding. So I have style guides and they drive my team crazy because it's, did you use that exact color green or that exact color red, or these are the fonts that we have to use. Like I don't care if it's not in this particular software, figure it out. So you have the visual style guide. And then I also have a very, very clear writing style guide as well. It gets so mundane, but it's like, how do you write the time even? Do's and don'ts. Are there some phrases that we use and some phrases that we don't? I try to avoid using ableist language. That seems like we don't say you're blind to this. We don't want to alienate anybody. Or we don't want to say, cliches like content is king or SEO ninja or guru because it's just like a million times. So, and that's like a 30-page document, it's a lot, but super, super important.
You find it hard to be the brand police?
No, but that's just in my nature.
It's interesting because I think many times with some of our clients, they don't maybe appreciate how important that consistency is. And if it's a bigger organization where they have lots of different departments, lots of different kinds of people, of course, people kind of like marketing, right? Because it's sort of fun and you can do some funny pictures and do some cool social media things. So they want to, kind of maybe take the brand and do this with it, which is not maybe consistent. And so, having that, whether it's a person in a department, whether it's an agency, whether it's a whole department that's managing that brand is very critical.
Yeah, 100%. And I know we talked about, maybe digging into AI, but that I think too is like that's why you're always going to need the gatekeepers. You're always going to need the humans at the top of the pyramid to make sure that everything is in line with what you're doing. In marketing, we are building trust. Like that's really essentially what we're doing. And if I show up one day as one person and show up the next day as another person, you're going to think that I'm full of it and you're not going to want to talk to me anymore.
Very true. Hey, you mentioned your team. Talk a little bit about your team.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. I have a really incredible group of people that I get to work with. And beyond that, because we create a lot of content. We do a lot of blog content, white papers, we do webinars, paid media, organic social, basically any marketing collateral that you can think of. I also work with some really incredible contractors and freelancers, and some of them I've even been working for since I started at the Hoff 8 years ago. So, and I don't do any AI content that's just AI at all. And I don't do any AI images. I still think they look really weird. Again, we don't want to alienate people with our marketing. But yeah, I have a great team of about 10 in-house. And then the Hoff as a whole has, I want to say hundreds, maybe dozens, but we work with a lot of freelancers who help us pull everything off.
Is that hard to manage?
I've been doing it for a long time. There are some things that were really tough at the beginning, but I think where people kind of lose the freelance relationship is they either go too far in thinking that a contractor is a W-2 employee, or they go the other way and they don't give them any direction. They just expect you to know everything about your business and the way you operate. So again, like those kind of foundational style guides and very strong SOPs where you outline your communication expectations, your turnaround time expectations. I have very clear pricing. I do fixed rate pricing for everything, which helps with my budget. Just things like that, just kind of keeping everything super structured helps. And not being afraid to cut somebody loose, honestly, like if you know it's not going to be a good fit.
Well, you must be good to work with if you've maintained relationships with so many different people for a long period of time.
I appreciate that.
Let's dig into AI. That seems to be everybody's hot topic right now. And I know in dealing with different clients or other agencies that people kind of have a different take on it, based on their own needs and perspective. How are you guys using AI to help your clients' business?
There's a few ways that we're using it. And again, I want to emphasize that we don't use it for content creation. And I think that's very, very important, especially now when it's so new. But for us, we have, and this is not even about content, we have a link product because we help people build backlinks to their website. We call it an AI link select. And basically, what we're able to do with this tool is when you plug your website in, we're able to find relevant websites from all over that have content that connects to your website where it would make sense for you to get a backlink. You can put in all sorts of parameters as to what you want that website to look like, how much traffic you want it to be getting, if there's a particular domain authority rating that you want. And that's proven to be really, really popular because link building is very, very hard to do. And then you can actually like kind of pick some of the sites that you want us to reach out to for you. So that's been great. That's a really easy, simple use case. And then with content, we use some optimization tools. So even though we don't use any AI writing, I used to have to like kind of do optimization in Excel sheets and be like, okay, like they want to rank for this keyword. Let me look at all the things that are ranking for this and how long is the content and what's the user intent. And now there are tools that do that for you. And that's fabulous because what took me, um, a considerable amount of time takes about 3 minutes for a software like there's Copymatic AI. I recommend these are all do similar things. Surfer SEO does this as well, and then clearscope.io. And I've used all three of them. They're all great. It's really, I think, your preference for UI and pricing, of course, varies for them. Those are two probably major ones that we use to help our clients and to also, I mean, it helps our writers too, which when we give the writers a leg up, they produce better content and faster.
Sure. Well, thank you for sharing those tools. I know our audience is always interested in new things that come along that they can try out. Why do you think the link building is so hard?
Oh man, it's so hard to do. I think there's a few reasons. One, because it gets a bad rep. And it's interesting because Google's entire algorithm was based on links. Like the initial algorithm that the founders built was called Backrub. And because they were two academics from Stanford and they saw how important citations were when you're writing an academic paper. And they said, okay, let's build a search engine based on this philosophy. So that's really like Google is built on backlinks. But because of some black hat SEO shady tactics that happened in the early to mid 2000s, and people kind of figured out. They figured out that they could build new websites that had no value or relevance, and build links that, yeah, they were gaming the system. And so Google reacted really strongly and really cracked the whip. But backlinks are still incredibly important. And unless you are a huge brand that's like always going to be at the top of the search engine results, they can be very difficult to get organically. Backlinks, though, when you're doing outreach, it's unless you have relationships, it's almost like networking. It's like unless you have the relationships or the connections with people, you're either going to get ignored a lot of the time, or they're going to be like, yeah, for $1,000 or something ridiculous. And it's just because one, people feel like it has to be under the table, and two, it got commodified like super quickly. So that's why I think we've been lucky. We've been around for so long and we've helped so many businesses, and we have proven to create really good content, that like we are a trusted vendor for people to help with this.
You make a really good point because we get requests periodically and it's like, is this even legit? Is this a good one? Is it worthwhile? And, we do vet each one just to see whether or not it's an opportunity. But yeah, you're right. It kind of got a bad rap and yet it's so critical to good SEO. So what are some other foundational elements of SEO?
Yeah, I mean, beyond, and again, backlinks, I actually do think they're the most important, especially in an age where everybody can create content super quickly. But I would say, and this is gonna sound like a cop out, but really SEO is about the user experience when somebody engages with your site and all the elements about that. So I think content is extremely important. Of course, I might be biased, but a website that has solid content that is useful to its base is always going to come out on top. I just did this really cool case study recently where there's this website that sells guitar strings, and it doesn't have a ton of authority. In SEO terms, it's like a DA40, which we're on a scale of 1 to 100. Usually, like a 40 is like, it's okay. But this site has such incredible content. Like every product page has an FAQ. It tells you everything you need to know about like buying an acoustic guitar string, whether you can use acoustic guitar strings on an electric guitar, like everything. And that site outranks Guitar Center. It outranks some of the biggest brands in that particular niche. And I'm convinced it's because they've done such a good job sharing valuable content with their users. So that's big, and it kind of gets overlooked, but it's big. And then your site's just infrastructure, your technical SEO. Google is not going to rank your site. It wants to send users to the best websites, because if not, they're not doing their job and they're not going to keep holding the market share. So if your site is slow loading, if it's difficult to navigate, if it's messy, if nobody wants to kind of stick around to buy something, you're not going to rank. There's link building, which also ties into the user experience too, but the rest of it is really all about the user experience.
Yeah, that's great insight. So if somebody's listening and they're thinking about their own website, are there a couple of, maybe one or two things a company could do to make people find their website easier?
I would say you really want to start with your keyword research and figure out which keywords are relevant for your particular website, your service, your industry, and which you can actually like obtain. Like I would love to rank number one for SEO. That's not going to happen.
Always good to shoot for that though, right?
you know. But you can look at like keyword difficulty, and we actually have a free tool on our website that you can use for keyword research if anybody doesn't want to spend money on a software like Ahrefs or SEMrush. And then once you have those keywords targeted, you want to start building content around them. So that could be a blog post. If it's sneakers, you're probably going to want to do a product page about sneakers if that's your industry. If it's best sneakers to pack on a European trip, then you're going to want to write a blog post about that. But it really all starts with the keywords and then building really, really decent, useful content around that particular search term.
So, how do you create content that really resonates with an audience?
I mean, for me, I like to identify a need or a pain point and then use content to take the user through the journey to the other side. So, one of the things that we do and that I like to do, you can do this first and then kind of look at the connecting keywords. I talk to our sales team a lot and our customer support or success team. What questions are you getting on the phone from clients? Where are they running into trouble when they're trying to figure out their SEO? What things come up all the time? What things make them think that this is going to be a good investment? What things make them think it's going to be a bad investment? And then I take that intel and I address that on the website itself. So you don't have to necessarily get on the phone with a sales rep or somebody on our success team to find the answers to your questions. You can come to our website and then we're able to build trust that way.
So, when you say take them to the other side, are you talking about taking them to the solution or whatever their pain point is?
Exactly.
That's a great analogy. The thing that I keep coming back to that I see a lot with all of our clients is there are so many different ways to tell a story today, right? I mean, you have all these digital media opportunities, but you still have all the traditional type of media as well. What channels are you seeing and using right now that you really think are moving the needle?
I'd say video. I'd say YouTube and using video in your organic social, or if you're doing paid advertising or paid social, that's the direction that everything is moving in. And it is a worthy investment. I would say if you think that you don't have the capabilities to do video, you do. These days, it really does take an iPhone, a back camera, some decent lighting. You don't need to have a ton of insane equipment, especially the way that people are responding to video now is we are looking to that authenticity and we are looking to that in the moment. So it doesn't have to be completely polished or professional. And YouTube, if we're speaking from an SEO perspective, is so valuable for search. It's the second largest search engine in the world. And if you have a product or a service, there's probably some sort of how to associated with it. And a YouTube channel is such a great vehicle to be able to capture people and build trust with them through your content. And I would say the other thing, I mean, we do a lot, and my sort of trick is just content repurposing. So I have a lot of blog content, and that's really where it starts. Our blog's pretty big, but we repurpose those into YouTube video scripts. We can chunk them up into shorts, like by the different headers. We could do a long form with the whole blog post. We repurpose them into carousels for LinkedIn or for Instagram. We can take one piece of content and we can do a ton of stuff with it. So it's not as much work as it would be creating like 5 different pieces of collateral.
Are you doing your own video?
Yeah, our social media manager is also a very skilled videographer. So I lucked out. But again, like I've done paid ads from this living room where I've held my phone up or I've strapped it to the top of my laptop and they converted great. They work really well too.
Yeah. I mean, video can take so many different formats and you could spend a fortune on them or you can kind of go down and dirty with them and still many times accomplish a lot of the same things.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's not so much about the production value, it's about the message.
The story, right?
Yeah, if you have the message, if you have the story, that's what's going to actually resonate. Nobody's going to remember how crisp your video was.
So, how do you see TikTok impacting YouTube and where all that is going?
Yeah, I mean, I think TikTok is great. We do have a TikTok channel. We have a lot of fun with it. I say for a brand awareness campaign, TikTok is a super useful medium. I would not use it for any sort of conversions or anything that's bottom funnel. But anything where you can get your audience, I should make a distinction there because I'm coming from a B2B perspective. So for us, it is about brand awareness. If you're B2C, I think TikTok is actually super useful for conversions because that's tactile. You can show the product, you can show, exactly like a use case for it. We can't really do that with SEO as much. But yeah, if you're in the e-com space or something similar, I think TikTok is great. I hope it stays around.
So with NextNet Media, do all your brands focus on SEO, but they do different things to achieve it?
No, we have some AI software tools in our suite. So we have Copymatic AI, which is basically AI for content marketers. So if you're kind of trying to use ChatGPT and you're like going down a rabbit hole of prompt engineering and you're getting stuck, Copymatic's a really great tool because it kind of does the prompts for you. And then we have Free Up Marketplace, which is a freelance marketplace, sort of similar to an Upwork or a Fiverr, but their differentiator is that we actually like interview and vet and test all the freelancers before they come onto the platform. And it's very managed. So if you have an issue with a freelancer, like our team actually will kind of be the go-between and handle it for you, which is for somebody, again, who's worked with tons of freelancers, can be very useful. And we also own iWriter, which is a freelance writing platform.
So how does somebody engage with your company?
For right now, the best way to engage with us would be to follow us on social media. And that's really the way that you're going to get like all the updates. You're going to get all the intel. Thehoff.com is a really great resource too for SEO in general. But I would follow us on social media. We're at the Hoff SEO for everything. And then www.thehoff.com.
Okay. So for you as a professional marketer living in this great world that we live in, how does a brand engage with you as a consumer?
I'm very active on LinkedIn, so that's probably the best place to find me. And that's Rachel A. Hernandez, or you can just look up Rachel the Hoff LinkedIn. But I respond to messages as long as they're not spammy and trying to sell me something. I like to post a lot and post my takes on what's going on in the industry and things that I've written and stuff like this.
Cool. So what about lifestyle? You moved out of New York, right? And went south. What's your lifestyle like?
Oh gosh. Well, lately I have been working a lot and that's okay sometimes, but I live in Asheville, North Carolina. So when I'm not working, I like to be outside, especially now when the weather is so beautiful. Very fortunate to live near a lot of mountains. I have a 2-year-old nephew who's about 20 minutes away who it's a requirement for me to see him at least once a week, if not more. And that's essentially why I came down here. And I am an avid baker. I like to bake. And I like to watch really terrible TV that kind of takes me out of whatever has been going on that day.
Unfortunately, there is a lot of terrible TV out there.
Fortunate for me.
Fortunate for you, right? Well, the focus of our podcast is marketing to rural America. And I know having just driven through Asheville, really just within the last couple of weeks, a lot of it is rural. What's your perception about what rural America is all about? What does it mean to you? What does it say to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, was born in New York City, but I did spend a lot of time in my childhood in upstate New York in the Hudson Valley area. And I grew up in Woodstock, which sounds cool, like because of the concert. But there was really, I lived in the second largest school district in New York State in terms of area, but my graduating class was only about 100 people. So there were people who were bus like for an hour to and from each way. And for me, rural America is one being in touch with nature sounds really cliched, but that's my memory of growing up was I spent my summers going on hikes, looking for swimming holes. My earliest memories are playing in the forest and, playing make-believe games. And I didn't necessarily like, again, I grew up in a super small area and I became very self-sufficient. I had a very active imagination. And I think that's what it sort of means to me. And I like it here too. I lived in New York for most of my life. And now when I go back and I visit, I'm like, oh, I'm so tired.
It is a little bit more relaxed lifestyle, is it not? Just a little bit. Well, hey, we've talked about a lot of different topics today. You've had some great insight. Appreciate you sharing the tools and your perspective and best practices on all the different things we've talked about. What else could we talk about today that our audience might find interesting?
Oh my goodness. I feel like we covered so much. I will say AI overviews. I don't know when this is going live, but Google has a new user interface for AI overviews. If you've done a Google search recently and seen like the AI overviews pop up, it's going to look a little different. And I think it's very exciting. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with this change in the results page.
So by the time this airs, people will have maybe 4 to 6 weeks to check it out.
Yeah, you can then start clicking around. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's super cool just to see. I know people, especially in SEO lately, have been really scared about all these changes and what they mean. But I think it's great. It forces us to evolve. And, as they make their user experience better, we're forced to make our user experience better. And I don't think that's anything to complain about.
No, I think it makes all marketing more effective.
Yep.
Hey, Rachel, I've really enjoyed visiting with you today. I appreciate you being on Outdrive.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Well, folks, thanks for listening to Outdrive. I hope you've enjoyed our visit today with Rachel Hernandez, Director of Marketing for NextNet Media. If you like the show, head over to your favorite podcast platform and give us a rating and review. And then come back again next week, and I'll take you down the roads of rural America where it's heaven on earth.
Thanks for taking a ride with us on Outdrive. This episode is complete, so head on over to eCallis.com for more insight you can apply to help drive your business growth. And be sure to sign up for our free monthly e-letter, Outthink, for even more helpful content about marketing to rural America. Have a great day and keep on driving.